So welcome. It is the latest BNI UK and Ireland Facebook Live, and it's a very special day today. It's great to have a honoured and esteemed guest, I'm going to say. Phil Stanton is with us. Hey, Phil, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I'm Charlie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's actually ages since we last saw each other. It's at least 48 minutes now or something like that. We were at a chapter meeting, BNI chapter meeting this morning. And we've both legged it with a bit more excitement on Phil's side because, well, you tell the world what's happened to you this morning.
Well, I mean, the first thing I did this morning was just leave my glasses at home. So,
Excellent.
I'm squinting. Well, that's. And then the second thing I did this morning was lock myself out of the house.
Again, well done.
Well done. Thanks for that. I don't know how I'm going to get back into the house, but I had my laptop with me. So, and I'm now using my dad's internet connection, and I've still made it for this. And that's the most important thing.
Thank heavens for parents. They get us out of all sorts of issues.
So and at least, let's face it, I've got a referral for next week for a locksmith. Is almost
there you go. Yes, indeed.
So at least I'm contributing.
Good. Well, let's just set up what we're doing here. Welcome to you if you're joining us live. Good to have you. A few people on with us. Please say hello. Tell us who you are, where you are. We get people from BNI across the UK and Ireland, often from around the world as well. So love to hear from you. So please do say hello. There's a few of you on already. Obviously, appreciate a lot of you will watch this on the recorded version on the Facebook feed later on. We're live on BNI UK and Ireland's Facebook feed now, but a lot of you will watch later on. So please, I want to say thank you for taking the time to do so. Hey, Bhavesh, good to have you with us. And yeah, please say hello. Hey, Mark, good to have you with us. And indeed, Mark says it's happy 25th birthday. That is the reason why we're here today, because it's actually tomorrow, but we'll let it be today because we've just come back from Business First BNI meeting this morning, where we were celebrating 25 years of BNI in the UK. So it's actually tomorrow, the 10th of December, 1996. Was the very first meeting or the launch meeting of BNI Business First. And our guest today, Phil, was there that very day. Were you not?
Yep. Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
A quarter of a century in BNI. How does that feel, firstly?
I mean, it's kind of unbelievable. I'm not really sure how I got here. Certainly not. If you'd said that to me 25 years ago, that was never going to be on the horizon.
That was not going to be happening.
I'm not even sure running a business this long was going to be on the horizon, but let alone staying in BNI. It's an unknown quantity that it was back then.
Well, look, that's. I mean, I definitely want to explore one or two questions. I've got a few questions for you from back in the day, back in 25 years ago. If you've got any questions for Phil, please stick them in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. I mean, he's the most experienced BNI member in the UK. There is no one else. From that original core group, there's no one else who's still in that chapter. There's one member. We'll name check him now. A guy called Steve Percy. The chances of him watching a slight, but you never know. He might see this at some point. Steve Percy, who's in another chapter that launched the day after Business First. He was around at the start and is still a member now. But yeah, Phil beats him by 1 day.
I think it's 3. I think they launched on a Friday. We were on a Tuesday.
Was it even 3 days? Okay, fair enough.
Makes him feel slightly better that way.
Yeah, he feels young. He feels young and fresh. No, so we'd love to ask questions, and I'm sure you might have some questions about it. Just before we get into that, though, I mean, 25 years. Let's just address that first. What's kept you coming to BNI for 25 years?
So, I mean, I made the same joke this morning, but most people won't have heard it. I like some of the people in my group, maybe most of them. But it's not the kind of thing you will do to socialize, and it certainly isn't the kind of thing you'll do to socialize at 6:30 in the morning. So the only reason can be that you get business out of it, and it's not the only thing that I get out of it. And funnily enough, we had a message from Ivan Meisner this morning at our meeting.
Yeah, lovely message, wasn't it?
And it was great. It was lovely to have that. And one of the things that he said was that I run my business and live my life according to the BNI rules, and I kind of do, and that's kind of one of the things that I've learned from BNI. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that you do keep learning. So the reason that I keep coming back, apart from the fact that I get business, I do also enjoy it, but it also keeps me so well connected to such a huge bunch of people, and also keeps me learning and finding out new things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sure many of you who've been in BNI sometime, maybe not 25 years yet, will empathise with that. Good to have you on with us, Ian. Ian was a guest with us a few 2 or 3 months ago, was it? Ian, I can't remember exactly, but good to have you with us. Alison, I was going to say morning. It's afternoon now. Afternoon, Alison. Good to have you with us. Kirsty, thank you very much. Happy 25th birthday. And someone else is on, Gilly Lawson.
Jilly is correcting my correction. That
He's correcting your corrections. Yeah.
I will bow to the higher knowledge.
I'm just impressed she's on Facebook Live. But then again, I can probably get away with saying that because I'm her son. No one else could. She'll probably have a go at me later. That's fine. But anyway, 25 years. That's you wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for the business. I mean, are there any referrals that stand out? Maybe one from back, a long time ago that really did make a difference for your business.
Yeah, and it's my go-to story, and it's the obvious one, and it's quite lovely that it involves your dad. So I was very skeptical. I mean, I think most people who joined BNI were quite skeptical, and at that very early stage, when business meetings, breakfast meetings, something strange from America, I was advised to just give it a try for 6 months and see what happened. And your dad was working as a consultant for Kodak. And they had a requirement for a specific requirement for some laptops, and they had to work with a certain thing. There was a stuff they needed. And the supplier registration process for Kodak was a whole bunch of forms and all sorts of things. But the whole point is that I had a relationship with your dad because of BNI and having seen him all day in, day out. So he got me in, and he got my quote in front of people that would never have seen my quote. And partly, I will take some credit myself. My quote was detailed because I wanted the business, as opposed to people who were complacent about the fact they were Kodak suppliers and thought they would just get it. But I got about £25,000 worth of business.
And can I just quickly interrupt you there? Was it Kodak? I mean, they're not quite. It's a slightly different organisation now compared to then. Quite a large organisation. Was that the sort of organisation you were dealing with at that time, or was that?
No, I mean this was. It would not even have been on my radar.
Yeah.
I mean, Kodak back in the day, and in Harrow, which is where this was going into, they were massive, and they were a big organisation there. And as I say, it's not even something I would have had a chance to even get a look in because of the way that they have processes about supplier registrations and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So it's something I would never have had a chance to even do. And the whole point of having a relationship in place and being, knowing your dad was what basically got me in the door. So, I and this was 6 months in, this was possibly just after my first 6 month renewal or something. We could do 6 months at a time back in the day.
You could at the time. Yeah. You tried it out for 6 months and you'd taken the plunge again. So
yeah, absolutely.
And often that happens when you've recommitted. You see bigger, better referrals come when the commitment to the building relationships process.
We see that all the time. I remember that from the very beginning. I remember somebody walking in with a solid, great referral for somebody who had just not renewed. Because you within a chapter as a member, particularly if you're a more established member, you kind of feel that, listen, I've made a commitment to be here, and before I entrust my best clients to you, I want to know that you are committed to this process too. And there's something that kind of subconsciously people go, oh, he's renewed. Okay, he's sticking around.
That is a valuable lesson for anyone who's perhaps, look, I get it. Sometimes it takes time for people to build their credibility within the chapter, for people to really understand what they do, obviously to build the relationship with them. And that's definitely a good lesson for anyone who's relatively early on in their BNI career. Let's just say hello to a few people who are on. Jim Edgar's with us. That's his first time on Facebook Live. Hey, Jim, good to have you with us. Mark Jacobs asked a great question. This is exactly what I wanted. Love to hear more questions. And Phil's got a breadth of experience that very few people can rival within BNI. There's probably about 2 people who can rival it. So Mark asked, what's the best change in BNI in 25 years?
That is a great question. BNI Connect and the dropping of all the borders. So the fact that we can now network worldwide, and technology generally, and the fact that we're all more connected, but BNI Connect and networking worldwide, I think, has been the best change. So I'm so confident now that whoever asks me for anything anywhere, I can find them someone to do that.
Yeah.
And there's already that level of trust because it's BNI and because you generally know that is a reliable connection as a starting point.
Yeah, it gives you just that feeling that at least, okay, you don't know them personally, but there's that sort of seal of approval somewhat, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's when you phone somebody up and you go and you've never spoken to them before, and they do that thing that everybody does when they get a phone call from someone they've never heard of before. They're really suspicious about who the hell is this, and you go, I'm from BNI, and they just immediately relax and they're much more happy to talk to you. And it's an immediate kind of rapport generator. And yeah, so I think that's really powerful. I mean, I've got a couple of stories around that. I had a call out of the blue from a member in South Africa who runs a comms business. He runs it virtually, and he needed somebody with some physical pair of hands in Stanmore, and he was in South Africa, and he looked for IT people with a decent, complete profile on BNI Connect as opposed to
another good lesson there. Definitely another good lesson.
And he said, right, you'll do. And he called me up and we get business out of it. And the other one is, I have a customer and he's based in Bath and he needed a virtual assistant. So I just started looking and I found a few people. I gave him a choice of people, and that member in somewhere in Bristol now has a contract, decent contract, basically helping my customer run his new business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really powerful.
Yeah, it does work, this BNI thing, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's say, great question, Mark. Thank you. I'd love to hear other questions from you. Put them to. Let's make Phil work for his time on Facebook Live. No, good question.
For my new lapel pin.
Sorry, say again.
Make me work for my new lapel pin.
Well, exactly. In fact, give us. You've got this morning. Phil was presented with the very first 25-year member ribbon and a 5 diamond
badge. There we go.
Badge. There we are.
And then there's the 25-year
member. Yeah. That's the first ones given out in this country. Hopefully there'll be plenty more. Tony Ortham, good to have you with us. Fantastic. You've played a big part in BNI. Daff Wynn, appreciate that. Thank you, Daff. I don't know if you know Daff, Phil. She's one of the very first members in Ireland. So in a couple of years' time, we'll be celebrating 25 years for BNI in Ireland. Good to have you with us. John Gaston, good to have you. Mike Moradian, also in your chapter, you shared it. Mike said a lovely story this morning about how BNI had enabled him to just able to provide a support network for his now late parents, and it was just a lovely story. So thank you, Mike, for that. Karen, good to have you with us. What has been your proudest moment over the 25 years in BNI, Phil?
That's a really good question. That slightly put me on the spot. I think, do you know?
So tell you what, have a think for a sec. Let me just say hello to one or two other people and allow you to formalise your answer. Tony Ortham says, I joined 20 years ago, but this year was invited at least 6 times before I attended a meeting. My only regret is I could have joined sooner, but didn't. I don't know. Did you accept your first invitation, Phil?
Yeah, after seeking some advice. I spoke to a client who they did sort of help for startups, and I said, I've been invited to some weird pyramid sounding American scheme that involved me getting up ridiculously early, and do I have to dress up for it? And of
course you have to dress up for it. It's very important.
And she said, give it a punt, see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. But no, first invitation. For me.
There you go. Tony, something to learn for you there. You should have just gone the first time you were asked. Sorry, I interrupted though. In terms of the proud moment, something come to mind?
So I don't know that I can give you a proudest moment. I can give you the moments of pride, and the moments of pride are when there's 2 things. There's when you do something really good for somebody, usually in terms of a referral. When you get somebody a great piece of business, it's there. You absolutely feel proud about that. And I also feel proud about when I get somebody else into the chapter. So, the most recent guy I got into the chapter was Jason, our solar panels guy, and he's doing brilliantly. And I don't want to take all the credit. He runs his business really well. He's perfectly capable of doing it. But, he's doing fantastically out of BNI. And that is absolutely a thing that I think
But that's one of those, those connections you make in networking. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to, any networking occasion you go to, and by bringing him into the group, you will have facilitated, I don't know, countless chance opportunities for him, for example. So yeah, you have made a massive difference. I understand why you're underplaying it, but the fact is, a load of opportunities, a load of business, a load of stuff wouldn't have happened if you hadn't invited them along. I mean, that's a fact. Another question from Mark. I think I know the answer, but I don't know. I'll be interested to see. Is there any role you haven't done in your chapter? I know you've done quite a few of them. I'm sure of that. And which role have you enjoyed the most, and why?
So, okay, well, if you start with the easy one, so the doors to the committee are locked, and I'm not allowed to leave. I've had all the 3 leadership team roles. There are probably 1 or 2 coordinator roles I haven't done. I don't think I've ever been a power team coordinator.
Well, you've got to get that on your CV.
I'm not sure if I've been an events coordinator. I've done sort of training coordinator when we split it, but pretty much I think I've done all of them.
Pretty much everyone. And which is your favourite role?
Tricky one. So in terms of leadership team, my favourite role would probably be secretary treasurer, because it is straightforward admin and some spreadsheets, 100% in my wheelhouse. I stand in solidarity with Tim Cook on the spreadsheets front.
You crazy people who love a spreadsheet.
But on the other hand, I also quite like. I've quite enjoyed doing the president role, and the reason I enjoy doing the president role is because I get to stand up and talk, and people have to listen to me for an hour and a half, and that absolutely fits my ego perfectly. So those are the 2, I think.
Okay. I just want to go back in time as well. I mean, what was it like when you kind of intimated, did you think this was a scam? What is this crazy thing I've been to? But once you'd signed up and once you'd gone for it, in those early weeks and months of, BNI has created an industry that's become normalized now in terms of the structured networking that's available, and there's tons of it around now. It wasn't there then, so you did have more. I mean, there was more people to perhaps invite to go at because they didn't know of it, but much more skepticism, I guess. How did you find those early few weeks and months?
It was definitely tricky. I mean, one thing that sticks out. I mean, I've been fortunate in that I'm in a profession that's quite in demand, and that's also relatively easy to use. So although clearly we don't sell to the room, I found myself essentially with a room full of customers fairly soon. So I do remember one challenge. I showed my diary to one of our fellow members, and I said, "Look at all the things I'm doing. I'm busy working for all of you guys. I haven't got time to do BNI because I'm so busy doing all of your IT stuff." But yeah, so it was a challenge initially, just getting your head around the concept of referrals, and I think it's one of the things that's changed as we've all learnt a bit more. Referrals back then was, well, we hadn't even realised we were meant to be calling them referrals back then. We had slips that were called lead slips, and they said lead printed on them before we understood that.
Wow, that's learning for me. I didn't realise that.
Oh yeah, no, they were lead slips originally, and it was the kind of thing where we sort of sat around waiting for them to fall in our lap, and the whole concept of actually going out and generating referral business was, we were still learning and still trying to figure that stuff out. So yeah, getting referrals was a bit of a challenge. The visitor mindset was different, and I don't know if people sort of stuck around longer or if we just got more complacent. This was in the days when there was a maximum size for chapters before we realised it didn't need to be, and so there was loads of weeks we didn't have visitors. And you look at it now, and we look at a week where we don't have visitors, and we go, well, what's wrong? So it's been an interesting kind of seeing the transition from that point of view.
Yeah. And Tony's asking, what about your most memorable moments? Is there a funny presentation that stands out, or a member that particularly sticks in your mind?
We've had a few. We did a thing a few years ago where, and I don't even know why. I think just because we wanted to make it more lively. Everyone picked a country out of the hat, and whatever country they picked, that was the language that they had to include. They had to speak at least their memory hook in during their 60 seconds the following week. So that was interesting. I had Japanese. Don't ask me what it was. My memory hook was different back then in any case, although I chucked some more languages in just to show off a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was memorable. Also memorable.
Another question for Antonio is: do you have a favourite tagline? You know, the memory hooks that that members sign off their presentations with. Do any really stand out from that over 25 years?
There are a few that stand out. We had a plumber once called Matt. Wasn't around for very long. People won't even remember him, but it was "Don't go to bed with a drip, call Matt." So that one. That one sticks out.
It serves its purpose as a memory hook, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a few more. There's and the thing is that everyone talks about memory hooks, and there's some people sort of think, well, it's a bit cliched or it's a bit kind of. But we had an ex-member come visit us a few years ago, and he had not been a member for quite a few years. But he told us that he'd needed an electrician a few years after leaving. All he could remember was the electrician's memory hook, and that was enough to do it. That was.
Well, that's what they always were. They're a device to remember your business by. And I remember Ivan Meisner, actually, he's been on record as saying that he's a bit slightly regrets coming up with them because people made so much store of them and didn't get the rest of their presentation, i.e. being specific and telling stories about the business and all that kind of stuff. But I firmly believe they're a great device to remember your business. I think so.
I think really my other tip about memory hooks is that I see this a lot, that people think that they're a BNI thing, and I've seen some examples of this where people they've come up with this or they don't have a memory hook at all, and then you look at their business card and there's a memory hook right there. They've got a slogan, they've got a thing, and it's memorable.
And you think of big multinationals, they all have them as devices to remember their business by.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think using it everywhere, having one, I mean, mine is on our website, and it's our ethos. It's what we do. And it's in use everywhere. It's not just a thing I do in BNI and a bunch of people.
You must quickly share it because that's people will be on tips.
It's business IT with a personal touch.
There you go. It's a great question from Benson. Hey Benson, good to have you with us. I was going to definitely wanted to ask this one. We must start to sum up, so just constantly. Time always flies. If you've got any more questions for Phil or any other comments, please stick them in the chat now because we have to wrap up soon. But Benson's asked a great question. What you've got a lot of experience as a long-term member. What's your best advice you can give to a fellow member when they join? So a brand new member.
Oh, there's so many. I think so. Some of the things that I live my life by are BNI things that I've learned. So do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it is one of them. Being known as that person who will just get the stuff done, and understanding that the way that you do one thing is the way that people will perceive that you do everything. So I would say to a new member, whatever you do with every your interactions with any other members, make them amazing. Make sure you are remembered for all the good reasons. Default to yes is another one. If you're asked to do something, just say yes. Make that your, instead of sort of starting off of a no and kind of thinking whether you could possibly do it, start off with yes, and then if there are serious reasons why you can't, then fine. But those would probably be the ones. And absolutely engage. Spend the time.
Great advice. Great advice. Fantastic. No, it's such a pleasure chatting to you. Well, we've hung out quite a bit this morning, to be fair, because we've been there and now here, and it's really, really fantastic to hear some of these stories and remind ourselves of some of the history of BNI, and what's changed over 25 years, and what's developed and what's new. But at its core, it's the same thing, really. It's about building relationships with people and doing good business and having some fun doing it as well. I think that is definitely was summed up by your meeting this morning, and it sounds like your experience over 25 years. Any last thoughts for us before we wrap up?
Any last thoughts? I mean, I think what you just touched on about building. We've talked about building relationships, and that's 100% what it is. We used to have a running joke in my family between me and my brother. Whenever my dad had gone to see a medical professional or anybody else, or got someone to do something, the first thing he would always say was, "A bloody nice bloke." And when we were more fixated on, did he fix the thing or tell you how to cure your? And we kind of thought this was funny, but I thought about this recently, and I was like, no, that's kind of what it is. You do business with people that you know, like, and trust, but particularly that you like, and that comes from building a relationship.
Exactly.
And as I say, business IT with a personal touch. In our business, we are all about relationships. It's exactly why our business works. And one of the things that I said in one of my first BNI 10-minute presentations was, my goal with every customer is to be able to pick up the phone and go, "Hi, it's Phil." Not Phil from EQ, not Phil Stanton, not anything else. And for that to be enough for them to know who I am. And bear in mind, this was before everyone had caller ID coming up and telling them it was Phil, right? Literally just,
yeah.
And that's kind of key. If that's the level of comfort to aim for, then that's how you've built a solid relationship. That you want to,
No, great advice. Well, I need to echo what my mum says again, because I think it's always important to do that. She says, grateful for your incredible loyalty, Phil. Thank you. And I definitely echo that. We appreciate everything that BNI members do to not just help themselves, but help their local communities. And you've been doing that for a quarter of a century, believe it or not. So just want to say thank you for your time in BNI. Thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. It's lovely hearing some of these stories. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. And for anyone who's been watching, thank you for watching. If you've watched on the recorded version later on the feed, we appreciate you taking the time to do that. And I'm just going to do a little plug, because we've got more 25th anniversary celebrations going on Tuesday next week. So that's I should have checked the date beforehand. No, I'm just going to make sure I get this right. I'm looking at my calendar. I'm not done. 14th. Sorry, yes, 14th. Thank you. Tuesday, the 14th of December, 4 p.m. We've got another Facebook Live special. Two special guests on this one. Gilly Lawson, again, my mum, who brought BNI to the UK with my dad back in '96. She's going to be on sharing some stories. And we've also got BNI founder, Dr. Ivan Meisner, who's going to be on that call as well. So we look forward to that. So Tuesday at 4, same place on the BNI UK and Ireland Facebook feed. And we'll look forward to seeing you then. But in the meantime, Phil, thank you. Appreciate it. Happy birthday. Happy 25th. And we'll see you very soon.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.